guys, welcome back to Strong Successful Male. So for today, I'm going to read an article titled Dating. What we call dating teeters on the brink of extinction. And guys, this article, which I came across the other day, is definitely an interesting take on the state of dating in today's world. And what they're pretty much going to get into is how definitely things have changed dramatically since obviously most of us were younger. Okay? I mean, the dating world, as it is right now in my 40s, is like it's night and day difference compared to when I was in my 20s. And for you people in your 50s, your 30s, and so on and so forth. And it's pretty interesting, and they go into how technology has changed it, how obviously COVID has changed the world and all that. I mean, nowadays, pretty much with the dating apps, it's like literally somebody's looking on their phone, just swipe, swipe, swipe. When back in the day, you actually had to go out and meet people and actually have a conversation, which, by the way, a lot of people nowadays, particularly younger people, have a really hard time actually having people skills and conversing because they've been raised on talking by texting and talking through direct messages and all that. You know what I'm talking about, the younger crowd. And it's really amazing. And it's really going to get into that in detail. But also, one thing they don't talk about, to no surprise, is how so many people, particularly men and especially young men, are just walking away from dating altogether. Because it's amazing to me what I read about and what I'm told about by people I know that have kids, teenagers, high school, even early college, that the boys are just not interested anymore for a lot of reasons. They'd rather just hang out with their bros, go biking, mountain biking, rock climbing, play video games, do whatever, or focus on themselves, save money, whatever, than actually dating. And when I say dating, I don't mean like just going out with someone to have a jolly old time, just trying to actually, hook up. Like when I was younger, as a teenager, that's pretty much the number one thing on my mind, as with most guys. But nowadays, it's different. And there are a lot of reasons for that. It's no accident that, because of the feminist movement, they're molding girls to be more masculine, so it turns guys off. Or the fact that young guys are being, in the schools, are being pretty much told they got to ask consent for everything. Literally, to look at a girl, you need consent. So they're like, the hell with this. Or hearing stories from their older brothers or their uncles or their fathers, what they went through in terms of divorce and problems with women. They're just like, the hell with it. And a lot of them are finding content online. You call it the RP movement. I got speaking code here. And realizing, screw this. And so it's definitely an interesting situation, and it'll be interesting to see how things go down the road. But anyhow, I'm going to get right into this and comment here and there. Starts out, says, dating. What we call dating teeters on the brink of extinction. Quotation here, if you're not going to marry me, I guess I'll stop coming around. I don't have time for this anymore. That's how he'll proceed. How romantic. My husband's grandparents never went on a date. They didn't meet at a coffee shop or bar. They didn't go to the movies. They knew each other from church. He came to her family's house to repair farming equipment, and then he stayed for supper. That was a different era, a time when a dad's approval meant something. Nearly 100 years later, some people in parts of the world still do like that, but not many. It sounds almost medieval. Yeah, there was a time and place people met at church or in their just local community, and just the families knew each other, and that's just kind of how they got together. And then things evolved to going actually out, meeting people out in a public place. It's amazing how it goes, but now we're in a new trend where actually nobody talks, nobody meets. My friends and I went about love in a completely different way. Our lives didn't revolve around family or church. We rented studio apartments on the edge of a college campus in the middle of a big city with suburban tentacles that spread out for miles and miles. We practically lived at coffee shops and bars, always eager to make a new acquaintance. We made overlapping, crystalline circles of friends and coworkers. We went on pub crawls and danced in clubs until 2 a.m. This sounds like my time. Does this sound familiar to many of you guys, particularly guys that are probably mid-30s on up, definitely 40 and up? Now that's starting to feel like a bygone era. So what's next? We like to think love is free and timeless. It's not. Love is scripted. We adhere to a set of dominant behaviors and pursue relationships as defined for us in a specific cultural movement. We bond. We mate. We do it according to societal pressures and expectations. We either accommodate and conform, or we do our best to deviate and find our own version. No matter how hard we try, the age we live in always has a deep influence on who and how we love. For decades, the script hasn't changed much. You meet a stranger through some set of circumstances. The more unusual, the better. Then you go on a string of increasingly intimate dates until one of you invites the other back to your place, where you sit on a couch and wait for the look. Then you kiss and eventually work your way towards full intercourse. After that, you decide whether or not you're official. Sound familiar? Then you announce it to your friends and update your relationship status on whatever apps you're using. You date until you cohabitate. If that goes well, then you start talking about marriage and kids. That's our script. You either follow that set of values or you reject them, and then you wind up doing something sort of similar anyway. You get married, but you don't have kids. You live with someone, but you don't call it marriage. Maybe you call it an open marriage. It's a slight rewrite. Again, sound familiar? Above, I basically described every episode of every semi-romantic comedy since the Seinfeld era. Recently, they're starting to feel a little stale. They don't seem to reflect our culture or values anymore. Honestly, how long do we think the script would hold up? Try watching a romantic comedy from 2010 or even 2015. It feels like a guilty pleasure, more like an artifact. Yeah, no thanks. I will not watch any romantic comedies. Thank you very much. All of a sudden, it's old. No wonder it is. After all, people haven't met strangers in coffee shops for an entire year. At least they shouldn't have. Most first dates are happening over Zoom, not some tapas place downtown. Everything we know about dating is undergoing an abrupt shift. These changes might feel temporarily, but we're starting to realize the truth. The temporary scripts are becoming permanent. The way we're dating and flirting in 2021 is going to become inscribed in our culture. Screen dates are here for good. You know, I know some people that have obviously done like Zoom dates and everything. Guess what? They didn't go very far. The pandemic has changed dating forever. In some ways, it only accelerates changes that were already underway. We used to treat dates as casual affairs. You could just see someone for dinner and a drink. You took a chance. It was no big deal if things didn't go well. At worst, you walked away with a funny story to tell. Then you went back to swiping for a few days, or maybe you did something adventurous, like go out and try to meet someone the old-fashioned way. Well, that's over. Yeah, it really is. You know, it's interesting, guys. I think one of the best examples of where we're already going this way, but we're going to start going more towards the future. It literally, like what I'm about to describe. If you ever saw the movie WALL-E, okay, I actually didn't see the whole movie, but I remember at the time, like, I don't know, 10 years ago, whatever the hell it was, my girlfriend at the time was watching it, and I was doing something in the background, cooking in the kitchen, and I looked at the TV, and there was a scene, and obviously it's supposed to be the future, and in the movie you see all these people on these flotation devices, these chairs, and they're all obese, and they're sitting there on their laptops talking to each other. Even though they're all next to each other floating around these chairs, they're all talking to each other that way because they can't actually have a conversation with each other because they don't know how. That's where the direction things are going, because let's be honest, here in the West, everybody's fat, you know, or a big percentage of the population is. But that was obviously an exaggeration, but that's the direction it's going. Nobody can actually talk to each other anymore. And it's all going to be behind their screen of their phone or their laptop or whatever. Anyway, says here, apps have become the only safe entry into the dating pool. Someone has to earn your trust now before you agree to meet them in person, even in public. You can't afford to brush aside their political views anymore. Even a short meetup takes a lot more planning. Yeah, back in the day, just you plan something, you meet up, etc. But now it's over and over and over and over and over until they actually meet up. Dating has turned into something much more intentional. It's probably going to stay that way. It's about more than a virus now. People have realized they don't have any disposable time or income to throw away on endless casual dates. They're tired of messing around. They want someone who's serious, and they want to know sooner rather than later. Yeah, sounds about right. Now, I got no problem not wasting your time. Seriously, I tell you guys all the time, if you're going to do a date, you know, one drink, that's it. End of story. Don't waste your time, don't waste your money. A lot of guys meet some girl and they get a shot with her, and she's really good looking, and they're like, yeah, I got her, so they're gonna take her out in some $300 expensive dinner, and then she's just going for a free meal. So I tell you guys all the time, one drink. But also nowadays, it's like, I know people are like this. If they don't think the other person's like ready to like get married, they don't waste their time. There's no actually having fun anymore. Casual dating is dead for one simple reason: it's not fun anymore. Casual dating is expensive and time-consuming. It was the luxury of Generation X and Millennials, who are now preoccupied with the latter stages of their lives. Even they're not interested. We should also mention why many people are walking away from dating, particularly the guys in this particular world, but they're not going to mention that. There's another reason casual dating is dead. The places where it happened are dying. Consider the geopolitics of romance. In other words, where you live determines how you mate. Most of the dating discourse in pop culture has consolidated love's locations in our minds. The movies and shows that taught us courtship rituals portrayed love in the bars and coffee shops of urban jungles surrounded by towering offices. Couples met in retail establishments that thrive between downtown areas and college campuses. We spent our entire lives thinking about love in commercial districts. Well, guess what? Regardless of the times, people are still going to go out. Okay, things have changed, but there's still going to be bars, there's still going to be restaurants. People are still going to want to get the hell out of their house. I mean, yes, things have changed, but let's not get carried away here. Let's not forget about high schools, where young people are supposed to meet and fall in love with their first sweethearts. That's where dating happens. Whether we're talking about romantic comedies or paranormal romances, love is confined to a handful of spaces. Not anymore. We haven't had much time to think about what happens when all those places we love happens to get shut down. Well, yes, they have been shut down for the last year and a half in varying degrees depending on where you live. And okay, and definitely things are changing a different direction. But eventually, things one way or another will go back to quote unquote normal. But people are always going to go out. But what's truly changed is the way people communicate with each other, and that I agree with. It says retail establishments are dying off. So are college campuses. Only a fraction of the restaurants and bars will survive over the next few years. Yeah, a lot will go out of business, but then others will come to replace them. You're not going to stop people from going out to eat or go to drink. Yes, a lot of people have gotten used to having things delivered and things like that. I will say movies are definitely an endangered species. I mean, shit, nowadays people can literally just watch the movie. Movies are being released. Like, for instance, Disney, on their Disney Plus. They've had certain movies recently. It's caused a lot of drama with some of the actors in those movies where they just had to go right on Disney Plus. And they made a shitload of money off those. So, amongst other, I can't even think of the word, but you get the point here. The movies are going right onto these different streaming services. So movies are just, it's going to be like bookstores where you have occasionally can find a bookstore, but it's extremely rare. It's going to be the same thing with movie theaters, unless the movie theaters adapt and make it usually movie theater / actual theater, or use it for other things, because people can just see things in a streaming on their couch. They're going to do that. So the old going to the movies for a date, which, by the way, is stupid, because how can you have a conversation with somebody at the movies? I always thought that was the dumbest thing for a date, but I did that in high school, but I had nothing. I couldn't go to a bar or anything. But the movies are toast. But other areas like bars and everything, people are still going to go out. A love is bound to change with the times. Even after the immediate fear subsides, we're probably not planning to pour back into restaurants and clubs anytime soon. Some people won't, other people will. A lot of us are going to remain skittish for a while to come. Think about it. Even if you work up the nerve to walk inside a cafe, you're probably not going to feel like lingering long enough to strike up a conversation with someone you don't even know, regardless of how attractive they are. All of this is assuming you even have the money to splurge on a night out anymore. That is one area I will kind of agree with. Again, people have been so conditioned, again, to spend more and more societies just talking on their phones, texting or direct messaging and all that, and they're losing their people skills, particularly the younger crowd. And also just going out, they're not going to be more likely to strike up conversation just because people have lost a lot of their skills. There is an element of truth there, because there was a time and place where if you wanted to meet people, a potential love interest, you got to actually speak up. Not anymore. The dating culture we knew is gone. There might be some attempts at revival, but they won't last. Places change to reflect changing values, and they filter back into our daily lives. Let's face it, we're destined to fall in love over screens. Very true. It makes more sense now. We started on the fringe, has become the norm. What we call a date will change so much over the next few years, I wonder if we even call it that anymore. Well, right now, I will say this, especially with the younger crowd, it is more, and when I say younger crowd, I'm talking teens, I'm talking Generation Zs, teens, 20s. It is really a hookup culture. It's amazing. Oftentimes I'll say this is Sodom Gamora 2.0, no joke. What we currently understand as a date will become a memory, something people of a certain age in a certain part of the world used to do, because the economies and spaces they inhabited made it convenient and practical. The new world is here, and it makes dating a huge pain. This isn't the end of the world. Humans have lived for thousands of years. Out of the whole span, casual dating is just a splash. My grandparents didn't know what a date was. My grandkids won't either. A lot of truth to that. I don't think the grandkids will. I mean, people are always going to socialize, but just the way of going about things truly is different. It is very interesting. But again, one thing this person left out here, and a lot of people won't talk about, is how also a lot of people are walking away from dating altogether, particularly men. And I mentioned in the beginning of the video, and especially younger boys. They're done. I've talked to some. I have family members. I know people that, friends that have kids. I got family members with nephews. They're just not interested. It's very interesting. I mean, there's going to be a lot of different takes for reasons why, but I have a darn good idea. But anyhow, guys, that'd be an interesting one to go over. Definitely, I mean, dating, as we've known, is definitely dead. And I've been saying a long time marriage is dead, but that's a whole other discussion for another day. So, all right, guys, that is it for today. Quick video. Be sure to comment down below. Then what you think about this. Let me know, guys, if you agree with this article. If you think it's completely gone, that's it the way it used to be, or this is just temporary, or things kind of go in cycles. I'd like to hear your opinion on that. I mean, it's definitely with the younger crowd, with the ease of finding people's information and dating apps and all that, and also just communicating on their phones. Will things go back to the way they were, or is it toast forever? I'd like to know about your opinion on that. And be sure to like the video, share with your friends, and subscribe. And I'll catch you next time.